Thank you so much, and looking forward to having a great conversation with my fellow panelists. And as you all know, we have a terrific group of people, Dr. Ranjana Pathak from Cipla, whom I've worked with for many years on quality, Mr. Nandkumar Kulkarni from Mondelez, and Vijay Kalra from Mahindra Institute of Quality, and Chairman Central Safety Council for Mahindra Group. So quite a lot of experience to talk about this. And I wanted to start out and just talk for a few minutes about, in a sense, views on quality in pharma, but also looking at views on quality in India going forward. And let me start out by saying that, for a long time, India was trying to catch up to the rest of the world in quality. And when we didn't really have much competition, or we didn't have to export to survive, then and there were limits to what people could produce, there was not really such a huge emphasis on quality because of limits on production. It was a demand constrained economy. Once the economy opened up and we started exporting and imports started coming in, I think it became very clear that, like the rest of the world, when left to people's own devices and when you give people choices, that in fact quality matters. And people will choose products of a quality that they don't. Nobody wants to buy shoddy quality. They may have a price point in mind, but nobody really wants to buy shoddy quality. And as a result of that, the quality in many areas in the country have grown dramatically. So I just wanted to highlight a few areas which in the last 20 years where the quality has improved tremendously, and that they are poised to actually create world-leading quality standards going forward. So if you, and I'll include pharma in that, but if you start out with automobiles and automobile parts, I don't know how many people here would remember the time when we only had a choice of Fiat and standard car and ambassador cars and the quality of those. And the arrival of Maruti and the opening up of the world allowed the quality in the auto industry to increase dramatically to where Indian products are being exported to some 70 countries around the world. And that has been as a result of the requirements of the Indian consumer and the requirements of the international consumer that has forced the quality to improve. The same thing has happened in a different way in two-wheelers. India is one of the largest, if not the largest producer of the world in two-wheelers. The quality of India's two-wheelers are as good as anywhere in the world. I think we export to 150 countries. And we are not only leaders in quality, but we are leaders in moving towards electric vehicles in scooters and in two-wheelers. And that is a function, and I'll keep coming back to this, it's a function of two things. It's a function of what consumers around the world want, and it is what the consumers in India want. A very, very interesting thing has happened to consumers in India over the past 10, 15 years as they have gotten access to goods from around the world, but more importantly, as they have access to the best shows from around the world on TV. And every villager can see what everybody else in the world, how they live, what products they use. They can see what products people use in the cities, and they want that. It is quite interesting how much money people are willing to pay for mobile phones to get a high quality, smart mobile phone. The percentage of their income that people are willing to spend so that they can get a high quality mobile phone is, of course, much, much higher than it is in any developed country, but people want that. And as a result, if you look, the world's best mobile phones, the highest quality phones in the world are being sold in India. So if we start out and say that as the economy grows, as the GDP per capita grows, as there's money in people's hands, they are willing to spend money on quality. We should never convince ourselves that people are not willing to spend money on quality. It is moving in that direction across many, many fields, and I'll talk a little bit about that. If you just take consumer durables, which is, which highlights what the disposable income people have and what they do with it. If you look at our washing machines, if you look at our dryers, if you look at our toasters, if you look at our ovens, if you look at our refrigerators, in terms of the price points may be lower, but the inherent quality is actually as good as anywhere in the world. It's the same companies that are making them to the same standards. The Samsung factory in India produces refrigerators to as good, if not better, standards than anywhere in the world. And the same thing is true for our Indian manufacturers. So consumers are moving up the quality chain. When they have the money, they are spending money for quality. And so we should never underestimate and say the Indian consumers can't afford quality. And therefore, over the next 10 years, I think all quality standards from around the world, those are the standards that we will have to live with over here. Now, if you look at various industries, as I said, have already achieved this kind of quality and are doing something going forward that I'll talk about. And I said, let me start with two-wheelers and auto, and you know what the situation is there. I don't know if many of you are aware that in some of the most advanced heavy equipment, such as reactors for refineries, for petrochemical plants, for crackers, that equipment, which is often, weighs 1,000 tons and is, 80 feet tall and is made of titanium, in that market, one of the leading companies in the world is L&T. They sell the highest quality, most advanced products everywhere in the world. And it's all shipped out of Gujarat on barges and ships to everywhere in the world. So in our environment, with the kinds of workers we have, with the kind of systems we have, in different industries, we've been able to achieve this kind of quality. Let me take two other examples, and then I'll move on to what does the future hold for us. So let me start with, let me also talk about in services, not just in manufacturing. In services, actually, if you look at the quality of care that the best hospitals in India provide, we are providing outstanding quality of care. Those hospitals work to the world global standards, which is JCI or NABH. They work to those standards. Their clinical outcomes are as good, if not better, than anywhere in the world. The quality and the advanced, the advanced equipment they have, the advanced medicines they have, the kind of doctors they have is as good as anywhere in the world. And that's why people from all over the world come to these hospitals. It is not unusual to find, and since this is a pharma group, you will know this, it is not unusual to find that in some of the best hospitals in India, 50 to 70% of their patients are international, who are coming to India for that quality care. So even in healthcare, we are able to achieve it for a narrow segment, which is the high end. And the challenge is how can we move it to every other segment in healthcare? But we have achieved it. I think that's the critical thing that we should keep in mind, that we have been able to achieve it. Now I want to go a little bit, let me go to construction. We always talk about how shoddy construction is in India, but actually, if you look at the most advanced buildings in India, which are the headquarters for many companies in Bangalore, Mumbai, Gurgaon, the quality standard for our best buildings in India is as good as anywhere else in the world. You can check them off against what is being done in Dubai, what is being done in the UK, in the US. We have learned how to make that quality. That's not true for every small construction site everywhere in India, but it just shows that we can get there, and the standard of quality will increase all through that system as we go through. What I want to do now is to talk a little bit about much of this quality has occurred because we have learned the techniques from the rest of the world and said, let's see what they've done in the rest of the world. We learned these techniques from Toyota. We learned these techniques from, the various other quality movements in Japan and Germany. And we learned from them and tried to do what they did, and therefore tried to catch up. I think the most exciting part is that, with the way technology is evolving, India and Indian companies have a chance to actually leapfrog and become leaders in quality. And let me give you a couple of interesting ways to think about this. And let me start out by saying that India is today the third largest startup ecosystem in the world. All of you are aware of the number of unicorns that have emerged in India. Every day in the papers, we read the story of another 30-year-old or 20-year-old who founded a company, made it very successful, and is now, the company is worth $1 billion and they've gone public. It's a phenomenal feat that has occurred over the last 15 years, and we are just seeing the results of that today. The Indian startup ecosystem is the third largest in the world. It has spawned companies that are doing leading edge work in technologies and bringing it out faster, better, and cheaper than almost anyone in the world. And this is where I want to talk about, because when they did this, we are not copying what others have done. In many cases, we are breaking new ground in how we think about application of technology to improving the product, improving the service, and improving the quality. I'm sure almost everyone who's listening to this has taken a COVID shot. And I'm sure that in the process of taking it, if you were in India, you use the COVID app. As you know, I don't know if you're aware that the COVID app has over 1 billion people registered on it. It was developed in India for a very small amount of money. It is Indian software code. It was built in record time for almost nothing and runs brilliantly today. Many countries are now taking our COVID code and applying it to what they do. India's ability to use technology to create population scale systems, this is what I call population scale systems at startup speed, is amazing. And 10 years ago, we would never have thought we could leapfrog others using this. But today, we're using technology and the startup ecosystem. In industry after industry, we are using this to leapfrog others and really making this very, very competitive, making us very competitive and ahead of the game. So I think my challenge to everyone and what I'm seeing is we should take, it's not just a question of catch up, and I'll come back to pharma in a minute. I think it's a question of this is a unique moment in time when we can think about Indian companies leapfrogging in terms of quality using technology to do something, because now we've grown level with many other countries in the technology that's available, and we can use that to leapfrog what others are doing. There are about 7 large-scale population, what I call population scale systems that are state-of-the-art that India has developed. UPI, many of you use UPI for your transactions. That's a population scale system. Of course, Aadhaar was the first one. There is one, there is one to provide that keeps track of 400 million workers in India. There are systems in e-commerce and others that are all population scale systems developed in India. And because they are developed using technology, the approach to quality in it, while building on the principles, time-honored principles of quality, they go one step further by using technology to build in quality while the transactions are occurring. Not to check quality later, but while the transactions are occurring. And I think that is the great opportunity. We are seeing that occur in fintech. We are seeing it occur, but we are seeing it occur even in products. With Industry 4.0, the application of India's great capability in artificial intelligence, data crunching, will allow us to use that data to improve quality at a pace that we couldn't do before. We used to always worry about how can I train 40,000 workers on quality? How can I get 40,000 people in a classroom? But today, using digital delivery of training, we can train 40,000 people in the course of a week and teach them the latest techniques on anything. So using all of this, I think we can dramatically improve and leapfrog, as I said, what we're trying to do in terms of quality. So now let me come to pharma and put this challenge to you. In the last 20 years, the number of plants in pharma in India, the quality has gone up dramatically. The number of plants that are approved by the FDA, by the European agency, the Australian agency has gone from a few to, I think, over 70 today. And hopefully there will be more. But I think that is not enough. I think that's great that some of those plants have been approved by the FDA. I think in pharma, we have to think about why can't the most advanced and highest quality factories in the world, not just ones that meet an FDA or an EMA standard, but are actually genuinely ahead of the curve, why can't we reach those levels of quality? And why can't we take the learnings from that to apply it to the entire pharma industry, not just the top 50 companies? I think there is a great opportunity to do that because we have the technical capability, we have the software capability, we have the understanding of Industry 4.0 to do that. I would not be surprised if the first completely automated pharma factory with the highest quality is actually built in India. I'm not sure that many of you are aware that some of the most advanced warehouse robotics companies in the world are now actually in India. It's a Gurgaon-based company called Adware, which is now pumping out a large number of robots for warehouses that are being shipped all over the world. And their advantage is not that they understood mechanical engineering, which they do, but their advantage was that they really, really understood AI, AI, data analytics, and all of that. And that I think we have an advantage in, and therefore we can use it, I think, to leapfrog over everybody else. I would hope that when IPA holds its next seminar like this 5 years from now, that we can have case examples of pharma companies out of India and pharma factories out of India that have the most advanced quality standards of anywhere in the world. I can tell you one thing, that in terms of warehousing, the most advanced warehouses in the world will be in India in 2 years' time. And if they can do it, I'm sure we can do it in the pharma and other industries. So I've talked for a long time, and I didn't want to use any slides, but I just wanted to give this message. We've come on a long journey since independence and since the country opened up. The consumers and our customers are going to demand higher and higher quality. We should not assume they don't want high quality. And the technology will allow us, if we put our minds to it, to leapfrog everyone else and be at the standard bearer on quality. We're already seeing that happen in some industries and with some companies. And I'm sure that that is a challenge that the pharma industry should take up and reach that very soon. So with that, I'll end. Thank you very much for listening to me.
Thank you very much, Mr. Adil, and drawing the analogies from different sectors. And it's always good to have learnings from various sectors. So we move forward to our panel discussion. And without losing any more time, I would like to invite Dr. Ranjana Pathak, President, Global Quality, Medical Affairs and Pharmacovigilance, Cipla, and our panelist, Mr. Nandkumar Kulkarni, Senior Director, Integrated Supply Chain at Mondelez, Mr. Vijay Kalra, Head of Mahindra Institute of Quality and Chairman, Central Safety Council for Mahindra Group. Over to you, Dr. Pathak.
Thank you so much. And Adil, thank you for setting the stage so beautifully. And that is going to be our theme, because we are wanting to be best in class. And I think we will, with leaders like you and giving us the message and the challenge at the same time. I think we only have to go up. So let me start with quality excellence integrated with sustainability. And I'd like to just take us back to the COVID days or the COVID years. We've had 2 years of difficult time. Every one of us has been affected by that. And we've all heard that necessity will make us invent things. It's the mother of invention. And that's precisely what we have done. We have come out of our comfort zone. We have done things that we never did. We have run factories in the manner that we didn't think possible. We have tested product, we have shipped product in such difficult circumstances while making sure that our people are safe, and we have been following the rules and regulations as expected of any pharma company. How did we do this? I think we did that because we had courage to step out. We were innovative, we were patient, we were resilient. And guess what? Many of those are the traits that we need to become a best in class. Is how do we break the shackles? How do we do more with less? How do we think of innovation? And if we don't think that, Mother Nature will force us as she has done in the last 2 years. And I think it's doable. The game plan has already started. Many companies are already ahead, and some are thinking, and if they're not thinking, they've been pushed by the last 2 years. The quality excellence is so critical in order for us to be sustainable. We cannot sustain if we don't put quality in our daily lives, when we come into the factories, when we are in the laboratories. And I keep coming back to COVID because it's been unprecedented. How did we manage in the 2 years? Some of us had digitized to some extent. Some of us had automated, and it was easier for those. Those that hadn't, it was survival. But I'm sure that they've taken note of it and they're putting plans in place. When I talk about digitization, how do I take away the paper? For automation, how do I take away the man that is in the factory or person in the factory? And this is not to replace people. It is how do I get people to be thinking at a higher level so they can do things that perhaps AI and ML can't do yet, because as we know, machine learning takes time. It takes a while to get the machine to understand and become accurate. So it's critical that we start on this journey. Now, if we don't, it's important to know if we don't, what will happen. We will not be best in class. We will not be able to, 5 years from today, as Adil said, sit here and say, wow, look at us. We have excelled so much. And this panel discussion is especially very interesting because, as you see, Mr. Kulkarni and Mr. Kalra, they are both in different sectors, making cars, making consumables, making foods, and we are making medicines. But we're all catering to the same. We're catering to the customer. And the customer doesn't want to settle. The customer doesn't want to pay for poor quality. Nobody goes to the store and says, give me this, and I want to pay half the price because I want half the quality. It's a given. It's a given that the consumer is more savvy. The consumer wants what the money is worth and perhaps more. The consumer has put their trust on us. So it doesn't matter which industry we're in, the consumer is looking for the same thing. The consumer has placed their trust on us. The consumer is who we are working day and night for. In our case, it's the patient. But your car also has to be safe. Medicine has to be safe. Your chocolate has to be safe. So the rules sort of remain the same. And we will hear from the panelists. They will tell us what are the challenges there in their sectors. And I just want to use an example of how bad things can go if we take our eyes off quality and safety, which are the key mantras for us, particularly in pharma. Since I'm in pharma, I'll speak for pharma and I'll let my panelists speak about their sectors. We've seen that unfortunate event with the MDX. Boeing was the state of the art. If you flew, you wanted to fly on a Boeing because it was unquestionable safety standards. And quality and safety went hand in hand. They're the opposite side of the same coin. But we saw these two crashes. 370 people lost their lives. And those lives were unnecessary. It was an unnecessary loss. And what happened? The culture changed. And it's very important for me to mention culture as we speak about quality excellence and sustainability. Because you could have the best machines, you could have the best automation, you could have digitization, all of those fancy things. But we operate within a culture of compliance, a culture where the leader sets the tone. And I'm fortunate we have that in our company, where the leader sets the tone and it's a culture of compliance. In Boeing, they took their eye off the safety and quality standards, and we lost so many lives because the culture is where the people are operating, and people are going to watch what I don't do. They're not going to be looking at the posters. They're not going to be looking at these fancy tools that I'm bringing. They're going to look to see what kind of decision making we have and based on what. just jumping back into some of the tools that time is short, so I'm trying to cover a lot and hopefully give you as much information that can be disseminated in this short time. Some of the automation that we have done, and I know other companies have also done it in India, is automating in the lab. How can I reduce my errors? How can I eliminate my errors if I automate? And I take away the mundane day in, day out, filling records or writing in notebooks. Can I have electronic lab notebooks? Can I automate my tests? So I have reduced my error. It would be nice to say if I have eliminated, but I won't go that far. I've reduced my error. I have increased my compliance, and I am getting to that best in class that I want to. And what does the best in class look like? The best in class doesn't simply mean passing inspections. Best in class is beyond passing inspections. As Adil mentioned, there are about 70 facilities in India. Why not 700? And why should we have any infractions, any citations from any agency? When we know the rules, we know the regulation, we've also become savvy in terms of upping our game with regards to processes. We also know what is required in terms of the laboratory testing. What is required when we have vendors that we tie up with? What kind of material are we going to get? What do we need to make sure that my product is consistent day in, day out? How do I train my employees? What kind of plans do I have in place? And the feedback mechanism. Do I have a feedback loop to make sure that what I have put in place is actually working? And all of this, I apologize, the lights went off. Automation, voila. So how do I make sure that the things that I'm talking about to you are working? And this is, I don't want to be preaching because everyone here is trained. I don't want to insult anybody's intelligence, but this is a practitioner's view in doing things every single day. So I'd like to bring my panelists on, but I'd like to leave you with that quality is not a department. It's a mindset. We have to make sure that we have the right processes in place so we don't have downtime and we don't have rejections. Because each time we reject something, the cost of quality becomes huge. And if you start calculating downtime, rejection time, people time, it's huge. It's not profitable. We could do all the quality in the world, but if our company is not profitable, what good is it? The patient's not going to be getting the medicine.
Yeah.
So the systems, the processes, the training, the tools, and most important is the culture of operation. So let me invite Mr. Kalra to give us a few nuggets. And again, I apologize, time is short. What are the nuggets that we can learn from the automotive industry? And what can we take from the automotive industry and apply to pharma? Mr. Kalra, would you please help us, give us some insights?
Thank you, Dr. Ranjana. First of all, I would like to thank IPA for this global summit and bringing a very critical subject on the table and talking about it. And before even I do that, it's a time to really thank entire medical fraternity and pharma industry of the country and around the world for really supporting entire world, entire human race against the most difficult times. When there were advices coming to sit at home, I think the medical fraternity and pharma industry, they were gearing up and were back in their offices at their locations to really support the entire thing. So thank you very much. And I think to me, this is quality. Okay, to me, this is the mindset to support the customers and the entire community is quality.
I think Mr. Kalra is having some difficulty. Okay. Shall we switch to Mr. Kulkarni?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
we'll wait for Mr. Kalra to come back on in the interest of time.
absolutely. I'm fine, Dr. Ranjana.
Okay, so Mr. Kalra. Okay, so what can we, same question to you from the FMCG sector. What can you share, Mr. Kulkarni, which we can perhaps pick up in the pharma industry? Because no different than what we are expected, right? The consumer wants the best, high quality and consistent quality. So over to you, Mr. Kulkarni.
Absolutely, and great perspective, Dr. Ranjana. I'm also absolutely delighted to hear Mr. Adil when he gave a very industry perspective. Maybe just a few insights which I bring from, say, FMCG, fast moving consumer goods, and maybe few things will be repetition already happening in the pharma industry, and a few maybe the additional learnings. Let me give you a little bit of analogy. What's happening in what happened during COVID particularly. We call COVID as a black swan event, means the event probably which has not happened earlier of this magnitude and of this particular duration. And hence there was no written playbook that how one should really manage this particular event. Every organization has certain risk management, business continuity planning, but all those things were sort of inadequate when COVID kind of a crisis came. And that's where the organization who were truly agile and resilient, they could perform significantly different to the rest of the organization. So the key question here is how do you make your organization agile and resilient when it is extremely difficult kind of a situation? And probably those are the learnings from some of the FMCG sectors which can be very critically applied even to the pharma sector. Let me give a couple of examples just to build on what I am saying. And we were talking about the digitization, and these are the examples which have actually happened in India. Like in one of our factory, which is a critical factory, and because of the COVID related restriction, we were not able to move our managerial or leadership staff to the factory. So the choice was like allow everything to settle down and then you scale up the factory, forgo the demand for that particular situation. Now alternate to that was like we were already progressing what we call as a digital transformation of factories, converting factories into digital factories. If you are not able to travel to factory because of our IoT, IIoT kind of parameters, factory was able to travel to you in a digital platform. And remotely you could troubleshoot, you could mentor, you could guide, you could coach people on the floor and drive 100% performance even in the midst of crisis. Now that kind of a digital unlock is absolutely unheard, and it's happening in India. Now, another example, we know there has been a big consumer shift, especially in FMCG sector, in the midst of pandemic. The way consumers were shopping, the way they were sort of buying, the kind of products they were preferring, and hence there was opportunity to do a scale up in some of the production lines. Now, if you are not able to take your own people to the factories, it was practically impossible to get the OEMs from other countries and commission a mega line. And that's where we have used the technologies like augmented realities, virtual realities, and commission one of the biggest production line in the shortest possible time. So what I'm trying to say here that the things which earlier were looking fancy, futuristic, or which can happen only in developed world, those are happening in India, those are happening at a scale, and they are creating a significant business unlock for any organization. So our appetite for digital transformation, our appetite to look at the things with a different perspective has significantly gone up. And that's probably what we say that never let a good crisis go waste. And this COVID has really helped us to become more agile, more resilient in a ways which will really determine the future for the organization. So these are like just few learnings, and as our discussion progresses, I will share a few more things also.
Thank you, Mr. Kulkarni. I love that. Never let a good crisis go wasted. Excellent, excellent. Let's get back to Mr. Kalra. He was in the middle of talking. Mr. Kalra, So
Yeah,
there
can you
were a
hear me
few
now?
failures.
Can you
Yes.
hear me now? Oh,
Yes,
sorry,
we
I
can
don't
hear
know
you.
what went wrong. No, I could see my face and yeah. Okay.
What happened?
I think, Dr. Ranjana, you have already talked why quality in a big way. Only thing I will add is that, I mean, I have been in auto industry from last 42 years or something, from the days of ambassadors and Fiat's to day of, I mean, being a Mahindra guy, I will say XUV 70 and Thars, no? And we have seen how things change, you know, and I mean, there were 6 companies at that time which were in auto, and I think a couple of them have survived, and rest all. And then, as Adil Bhai was talking about, the two-wheel industry really become leaders in the world when it comes to this, and all through these times. So it was never ability. I think it is how we target the entire thing and how we look at the world. No? And I'll just give one example of, I'll add one example of aviation industry. And Doctor, you were talking about that it's not about only facilities and knowledge and all those things. It's basically passion and how we look at the entire thing and mindset. A typical thing, look at Indian aviation industry. I will not name the industry, I mean, airlines, but out of 6 or 7, I mean, one outperforms the others. When you have same set of, there are 2 companies in the world making planes, no? So you have a very uniform answer for that. The customers are uniform, the ground staff is uniform, the control staff is uniform, and still 2 companies just, or one company outperforms at this thing. So it's not only facilities and all those things. It's just, I mean, passion and passion for perfection, passion for excellence, and training for perfection. No? And quality means different for different industry. I mean, when we were talking aviation, I mean, time. I mean, just focus on time can differentiate. No. When it comes to Mahindra, I mean, if we look at our core values, no, I mean, professionalism, good corporate citizenship, customer focus, and then, or customer first and quality focus, and then finally dignity for individuals. No, so if you see the last 3 one, no, customer first, quality focus, and dignity for individual to really perform and outperform and taking risk and all those things can bring a differentiation. You talked about relationship between cost and delivery competition versus quality. So yes, quality is not something add-on. I mean, it's basic economics, no, and understanding cost of quality and cost of poor quality, and how do we add cost of quality to really fight the cost of poor quality. And one of the things which has changed in the world is that it's something like 5-day match to a 2020. Okay. From a situation when we used to say this is my fair share, I'm sure none will also agree to some extent. There was a time when we say that if we bring this product like this, my fair share should be so much. From there, the word has become binary. Either everything works or it doesn't work. No, either it is 100% or 0. Okay, and one more element which has come is the speed. And I think Adil Bhai talked about it, no, that is speed of implementation, and COVID taught us, no, that it's not only you have to do good, but there is no second chance and first time right and all those things, and the speed have become. I mean, we all were taught a story of rabbit and tortoise, but my gut feeling is current rabbits never sleep, no, on the way, just improving every day. So it's all about not only I mean that quality movement of inspection to quality control to assurance, but it's the next element, what we call it quality management and quality improvement. I mean, how do you ensure that every day, every time you are benchmarking against around the world and seeing that where you are second and how you are working on it to be there, because it's a race which, and quality is not something which is static, no. So it's about this thing, and then first time right and building quality. So I mean, effort on process capability. I think you also mentioned both equipment, skill of people. Looking at tools like FMEA, error proofing, human error prevention, standardization across so that we get that consistency or something. difficult to believe that close to 20,000 hands uh, are play the game when one car is given to you. No, it moves through entire value chain and the whole ecosystem from that supplier, and then behind those suppliers, even the raw material supplier, the entire value chain has to be really looked at as a process, and then this thing has to happen. And as I said, and you were right, it's quality is culture. No, it's not. And still, many of us and many of industries or this thing, no, we look at quality as responsibility of quality organization. But actually, it is how good everybody does the job, and it is developing that quality mindset and capabilities. And to be very frank, when it comes to Mahindra, we have. I mean, 2006, we created an institute, what we call Quality Institute, Mahindra Institute of Quality. And I was having a long chat with Mr. Anand Mahindra saying that why can't we change the name to Mahindra Institute of Excellence or something? He said, no, excellence becomes then again a very broad this thing. I mean, let's keep quality word in the game and let's not bring things. So let's focus on that, and then try to look at how we teach people, and share with people how to have that techniques and mindset for quality, not only within the Mahindra Group but across this thing. No? And when we talk to some people at the group level, I mean, there is no separate quality culture training for manufacturing guys or auto guys and tractor guys or something. I mean, you have a finance guy sitting there of Mahindra Finance, you have a Tech Mahindra guy, all sitting together and talking the subjects. No? So when you say quality agnostic, I will leave one thought. I think the best thing is we can talk many things here. We can talk technology and all those things. But the best thing is that we should look for forums, and even I invite. I mean, if people from pharma industries come and want to visit our sites to see, because when we run our paint shop, heat treatment shops and all those things, there are a lot of things for process control which gives consistency. And I think, and there will be a lot to learn from pharma industry, very sincerely. I don't believe that pharma industry is this thing, but I mean, seeing each other's sites and understanding how you are working on this may be the big lead which can support both of us to really move to the next level. So I'll leave here, and then if there is anything we can talk about.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kalra. When you were speaking, it didn't think you were in an automotive or another industry. You spoke about process capabilities. We do that too, because it's of utmost importance to understand process capability. You spoke about FMEA. We do that too. So you see, there is that common thread in terms of how are we delivering this quality excellence. And I also like what you said about let's not remove the word quality, because it's, you have to keep hearing it for it to go into your cellular level, because excellence again is, each one can have a different definition of excellence. So a lot of resonation between everything that you said and what we are doing. So, and thank you for the offer. I'm sure we'll take you up on the offer to come and see your factory and learn a lot. And I think where we are a little different is pharma, for some reason, we are a little reticent because we think that the regulator may not allow us to do this, that, and the other. But I think the last 2 years has changed this completely. It's changed the paradigm. Even the regulators have worked so closely with the companies, and that's how the vaccine came out. That's how so many drugs, we have about 6 different drugs that came out for COVID. It wouldn't have happened if we had broken our shackles. We were courageous. We took the science and logic and the need, and we came forward with so many drugs, which has really saved the world. Let's go over to Mr. Kulkarni and see what is his reaction to what you have said. Does he resonate as I did with what you said? Mr. Kulkarni?
Yeah. In fact, absolutely fascinating. And when Mr. Kalra was talking about, one can see his passion and his commitment. So as a leader, he's sort of demonstrating the commitment, creating quality conscious culture. Some of the things, if I build a connection with even FMCG sector, and if I say talk about my own organization, we are in a snacking portfolio. And when we talk about the snacking, quality gets embedded into the core purpose why we exist. Means our purpose is to serve billions of consumer with right snacks, with right quality at right time. So without quality, your purpose doesn't get completed. So you exist with a quality mindset. And hence there is a transition that quality becomes a non-negotiable for everyone, not just for the employees in your organization, but anyone who is associated with you has to bring that mindset. So any of your vendor, either upstream or downstream, will have to bring that cultural change, those behavioral change that we have to associate with the organization in which quality is a value and not just a priority. And there is a big distinction in that. When we say quality as a priority, priorities evolve over the time. Values are fundamental. They remain intact even through upturn, downturn through which organization goes. So that's a big change, and probably that's what can also help. And I'm sure many pharma companies must be practicing that. That how you embed quality into the purpose, how you make quality a paramount for the existence, and that will ensure that you create right behaviors, right cultures, right mindsets in the people. So that's a very interesting kind of unlock which can really help for organization. One small bit, Dr. Ranjana, if you allow,
Yes,
we
please.
have also transitioned from cost of quality to the value of quality. Now, when we talk about cost of quality, you feel it's a nice to have kind of a thing. That if I don't do quality, this will happen. If I get consumer complaint, this will happen. If regulatory comes and does a visit, this will happen. Versus that, how a value or unlock quality can provide to our consumers, customer, and how it can become a fundamental for driving growth to reaching the consumers and to ensure that consumer preference stays with your organization. So a mind shift change from cost of quality to the value of quality, that also create a fundamental change the way you look at quality and the way you create ecosystem of quality around you. And last bit from my side, and again I'm sure very it will probably resonate with pharma industry, a transition from reactive quality to a proactive quality. Now, reactive quality is typically when you face a problem, you do a root cause analysis, Six Sigma, FMEA, 7QC, and there are a host of statistical tools. Proactive quality is when you anticipate consumer needs, when you anticipate what can go wrong, when you work on foolproofing or Puka-Yuki approach, when you work on embedding quality into the design, that your processes, your governance, your infrastructure is designed for quality, and hence making mistake is difficult. And that's the transition which is happening from reactive quality to a proactive quality. And just imagine, India is on the cusp of becoming a global power in manufacturing. 3 trillion to 5 trillion economy. We have a huge focus on make in India, made in India kind of initiative. Now, along with many other things, quality will be an extremely important unlock to make this happen. And hence, when quality becomes non-negotiable, when quality becomes value, when you move from reactive quality to proactive quality, I'm pretty sure the mindset of consumers inside India or outside India looking at the Indian product will change. So Indian products will be at parity or at superior compared to the Western or Eastern world, so-called developed worlds. And that will truly make India as a big global manufacturing hub even going ahead. So that's my short perspective on how the transition is happening in quality across the minds and across the organization.
So that was absolutely fantastic. I mean, I'm sure this is being recorded so we can hear it again and again, because you are correct. Quality is a mindset, and quality is something that is embedded right at the design stage. You can't put it as an afterthought. And we have to think of what can go wrong before you actually make something. And I think that is what we heard from Mr. Kalra and from yourself. I love it. It's absolutely fantastic. I also like the fact that the customer comes first, quality focus and dignity for the individual. Quality is certainly a value driver. And I think quality, and this is what both of you have said, quality is the differentiator. Quality is what is going to differentiate us from within various companies and, of course, uplift our country. But it is something that we have to be mindful of. We have to build it. We have to design it. And it cannot be the flavor of the month. So what is wonderful is to see that all three sectors, we have basically said the same thing in different words. And you both have articulated it so well. You've captured it. I would be remiss if I didn't say that. We could just take away from your introduction that you're from automotive and you're from FMCG. It's one and the same. And that's what is heartening, because collectively we uplift ourselves, we increase the baseline, and at the end of the day, the person or the entity that benefits is the consumer. And we all are consumers, whether it be snack time, whether it be a nice ride in a safe car built by Mr. Kalra, 20,000 people, or it may be medicine that you have to take that, us pharma companies are making for the public. So I think this has been an excellent, exciting session, and I have to commend IPA. I have never seen this in all these years that I've been taking part in conferences and seminars. I think this is excellent and a step in the right direction. Let us, the pharma industry, not be shy or afraid to learn from other industries, other sectors, because there's a lot to learn and there's a lot of commonality as well. So with that, I'd like to thank you profusely. Mr. Kalra, thank you very much for keeping us safe in those great cars. I would like to thank you, Mr. Kulkarni, for all the snacks and everything that your company produces. And I'd like to thank IPA, and I'd like to thank Adil, who really set the stage for us. He basically threw the gauntlet. He says, 5 years from today, why can't we say, we're the best in class? And I think if we all put our shoulders to the wheel, have that quality mindset, have that backbone, have a strong culture, we can do it. So thank you. God bless. Jai Hind.